ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. O Ramakrishna, the establisher of the eternal religion, the embodiment of all religions, and the best of all incarnations, we salute thee. In the last reading class, we left at page 492 of the Ramakrishna, the Great Master, part 1. We shall continue today's reading from that page itself. That is the paragraph 3. It is not a fact that one can make no progress in religion if there are no visions. The author was discussing what Sri Ramakrishna said about progress in spiritual life. The progress in the spiritual life can be measured or ascertained how far someone has progressed, not by mere seeing whether they have any visions or some such thing. It is mainly depending upon the character building. So if a man is progressing in his truthfulness, in his purity of the mind, in his holiness, in his celibacy, and all this that make a real ideal man, it is that character building that gives us an idea of how a person is progressing in spiritual life. So he is discussing that one. We shall read now. Again, taking such visions to be the whole of religion, many come to the wrong conclusion that one who has not had such experiences is not at all religious. Spirituality and aimless miracle mongering seem to them to be the same thing. But this kind of hankering after miracles does not make man religious. On the contrary, it makes him weaker daily in all respects. That which does not lead to steadfastness and strength of character, that which does not enable man to take his stand on the rock of purity for the sake of truth in defiance of the whole world, or that which entangles him more and more in various kinds of desires instead of setting him free from them, is outside the realm of spirituality. So clearly it is said here that this miracle mongering, which many of us are facing in the modern world, in all the countries, people just say so and so can show a miracle, therefore he is a highly spiritual man, and millions will go to them, and he charges them entry fees or visiting fees or some such fees and makes millions. So people think that those miracles indicate the spiritual progress of a man. It is entirely wrong. So it is the character that makes a person steady and strong. Whereas these people who go on running behind miracles, today they run behind a man who is having certain miracles. If somebody else shows some of the different miracles, they will leave this man and go after them. And what is happening to their character? They become weaklings. They, instead of facing the problem themselves, they run to this God-man or that God-man, so-called God-man. So man becomes weaker and weaker for running behind this miracle mongering. So Sri Ramakrishna was very much against it, and all his followers are also against it. If extraordinary visions have not produced such results in your life, and nevertheless you are having those visions, know that you are still outside the realm of spirituality, and that they are due to diseased brain and so are of no value. So visions or dreams and all such things, they have not much value in spirituality, except the good dreams or good visions may indicate that we have got some good samskaras, good previous impressions on our mind. That is all. Beyond that, we should not infer anything more. On the other hand, if on the other hand, instead of having wonderful visions and experiences, you find yourself acquiring strength, know for certain that you are on the right path and that you will also have these visions and experiences at the proper time. Some people have visions in the beginning itself, some people will have at the end. All the realized persons will have the knowledge of all the visions and miracles, only they don't use it for useless purposes. When circumstances come, they do use that power, but they know how to control that power. They do not allow their ego to develop. Their ego will not be boosted by using their miraculous power. They use it only for the welfare of others. When such power comes to them, they use that power. You remember Sri Ramakrishna once wanted to give all the Ashtasiddhi, the 8 yogic powers of showing many miracles and use extraordinary supernatural powers. Swamiji refused to take it. First he said, shall I get God vision through them? He said, no, but I have not got God vision till now. Let me first get the vision of God. Afterwards I will decide whether I should take it from you. See the wisdom of Swami Vivekananda. That is what is being stressed here. Faith, renunciation and strength of character are the signs of realization of spirituality. Finding that some of the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna were experiencing ecstasy, while he, though he had been visiting the Master for a long time, had had no such experience. A friend, later on disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, Gopal Chandra Ghosh, Buddha Gopal he used to be called, of ours felt much perturbed, and going to Sri Ramakrishna with tears, laid bare to him the distress of his heart, that he did not have any visions. Hearing it, Sri Ramakrishna consoled him and said, don't be silly, my child. Do you think everything is gained when the miracles are attained? Is it something very big? Know for certain that true faith and renunciation are far greater. True faith and renunciation are far greater. Why? Narendra, Swami Vivekananda, does not generally have these. He is such a great spiritual giant. He doesn't have these miracles or the miraculous powers or visions. But just see how great his renunciation is, how great his faith, and how great his vigor and steadfastness. We see later on, Narendra had all the powers of a yogi, all the Ashtasiddhis that Sri Ramakrishna promised him were there with him. He used it at extraordinary circumstances to benefit people, to come out of their stupor and follow the spiritual path. So we see that he got all these things later on, after he realized God. So Sri Ramakrishna advises, first have the realization of God is your goal. Let that be attained. After that you will know how to use these powers, even if you get them. These powers are a great distraction to a spiritual aspirant. That's why Sri Ramakrishna does not attach much importance to these yogic powers. Ripe eye and pure desires. They are liberated in life. Adhikarika Purushas, Ishvara Kotis and Jiv Kotis. All these are going to be discussed in the following paragraphs. When the time for living in oneness with the Divine Lord comes, through the elimination of desires, helped by steadfastness, firm faith and single-minded devotion, some aspirants have sometimes, on account of past impressions, such pure desires as I will do good to the people, I will act for the happiness of many. Under the influence of such desires, they cannot then remain wholly in the non-dual state, that is in the samadhi state. They come down just a little from that high plane of consciousness to the realm of I and mine again. But that I-ness of theirs lives in constant unbroken consciousness of an intimate relationship with God, such as I am a servant, a child, or a part of God, that I cannot no more devote itself day and night to lust and gold, knowing that God is the quintessence of everything, that I, that means I-ness, does not anymore hanker after the enjoyment of worldly objects, such as good taste, good sight, etc., etc. It draws at will upon as little of the experience of those objects as is conducive to the realization of that end and no more. Those who were once in worldly bondage but have now attained perfection by means of sadhana and are living the rest of their lives in some loving relation with the Divine Lord are known to be liberated in life, Jivan Muktas. They are liberated, but yet they are in the body. They appear like unliberated or people who are yet to attain liberation. They appear like that, but they have already attained liberation. That is vision of God and their separateness from their body and mind. So, but they live for the welfare of others. It is those who are endowed from their very birth with the consciousness of such a special relationship with God and have never in this life fallen in bondage like ordinary men that are termed in the scriptures as Adhikarika Purushas, Ishwar Kotis, ever free ones, and so on. Those people who ever remember that they belong to God and they are in this world only to do good to others. Such people, they are called by different names. Adhikarik Purushas means those that have been authorized to lead others. Ishwara Kotis, they are almost like the Lord ruling over the whole universe. Ever free ones. So they are never bound, ever free. So such people are also there. Again there is a class of sadhakas who, after attaining the non-dual state of consciousness, never come down from that state, even for the purpose of doing good to humanity. Some people attain to samadhi, they give up their bodies, being in samadhi itself. Maybe after 21 days or little more time, they never come out of their super consciousness. Just like people pass away in unconscious state, they pass away in their super conscious state. They are spoken as Jiva Kotis. Ordinary people, when they get into samadhi, the joy is so much, they don't want to come out from the samadhi joy. They remain there. So if you continue to remain there without taking food or drink or even breathing fully, so naturally their body falls off after 21 days or a little more. They are the ordinary jivas, ordinary individual souls attaining to the state of samadhi by sadhana. And we have heard from the Master that it is these who are the greatest in number among the spiritual people. Most of them are like the ordinary Jiva Kotis. Ordinary people with great difficulty, they realize God and give up their bodies. So these are the maximum number. And very few people are there after attaining samadhi. They remain in the body and they help others from their superconscious knowledge they have. They distribute it. They share with the other members of the ordinary people in their society. The experience of non-dual consciousness differs in degree in different persons. Again, there is amongst those sadhakas who, having experienced the non-dual state in samadhi, come down thence for doing good to humanity, a difference in degree in their experience of oneness with the cause of the universe. So there also the difference among the Brahmajnanis, knowers of God. In Upanishads also, Brahmishtaha, So Brahmavit, Brahmavittaraha, Brahmavittama. Man, a person who has attained to Brahman, man who has gotten to the higher knowledge of Brahman, the person who has attained to highest knowledge of Brahman. So there is difference there also, higher and higher grades. Some of them have merely seen the sea of consciousness, that means God, from a distance. Some have gone near and touched it. A little more intimacy, more information about the sea. And others have drunk but a few drops. They have got greater experience about the sea. Similarly, among the Brahmavit, among the knowers of Brahman, some have greater knowledge, some others have much more knowledge of Brahman than the previous one. Sri Ramakrishna said, by way of illustration, Narada, the seer among the gods, saw that sea from a distance and came back. So Narada was a knower of Brahman. He instructed others also in the knowledge of Brahman, but he had seen only from a distance God. God realization was not so deep in him than others who are going to be mentioned. Shukadeva touched it. Shukadeva went deeper into the knowledge of God. But thrice, only 3 times, he went into Samadhi and had an intimate knowledge of God. Only 3 times. And Shiva, the spiritual teacher of the world, took 3 sips only and lay devoid of consciousness. Next to Shuka, is higher, is Shiva. He also did not drown himself into it. Only 3 sips he had. So becoming one with the non-dual of consciousness, even for a short time, is what is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So attaining Nirvikalpa Samadhi also, people get, after getting the knowledge of God also, there will be difference in their knowledge. In the sense, some have gone deep into the knowledge of God. Several, and he has got infinite aspects. So, 100 aspects somebody will know, another may have 200 aspects, another may have 300 aspects, different aspects. The knowledge of Brahman can never be put a end to or put a limit to. Limitless is the knowledge of Brahman. So some have knowledge of some aspect, some others have some different aspects. So all of them are new. They bring new news about God. Each one according to their experience of God. Just as there are differences in the experiences of the non-dual state, there are differences in the experience of the devotional moods such as Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. So these 5 states of Bhakta. So there also, depending upon their depth of spiritual practice and depth of experience of God in that particular mode, in the Shanta mode or in the Dasya mode or in the Sakya mode. So they also differ from one another. Simply a person has got a Shanta Bhakti. All of them are not having the same experience. Each might have different type of experiences. All belong to the lower state of consciousness, leading the aspirants ultimately to the non-dual state. Either they are Bhakta or Jnanis, all of them come and reach the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Some become blessed by fully experiencing the one or the other of these states, while others have just a glimpse of it. The full experience of any of these devotional modes has been termed in the scriptures on yoga as Savikalpa Samadhi. The highest state attained through the Bhaktas, they call it as Savikalpa Samadhi. And the Jnanis who attain the highest state, they call that as Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Savikalpa and Nirvikalpa are one step, one is the one step higher, another one is one step leading to it. Savikalpa is you see God in one aspect. All aspects are forgotten. God is seen in His own spiritual mode. What it is, nobody can describe. That is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. But Savikalpa is nothing but Nirvikalpa only a step to leading into that. Therefore, Savikalpa Samadhi is the end of the Bhakta's spiritual sadhanas, and Nirvikalpa Samadhi is the end of the Jnani's spiritual sadhana. Both of them are the same. Savikalpa naturally leads it into Nirvikalpa. In many of the devotees' lives, God Himself says, now you have seen me as in this form, now you see my formless state. God Himself reveals the formless state. So He really reveals it to so many devotees. You can read the life of the mystics or the sons of this country. So many of them, they got the non-dual state, though they are bhaktas. God Himself showed. Of course, Sri Ramakrishna time and again says, Mother herself can give you the jnana, end of jnana, that is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Pray to Mother. She herself will reveal the state beyond the Savikalpa Samadhi, which is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Bodily changes are inevitable with changes in spiritual moods. The aspirant gets wonderful bodily changes, spiritual visions, etc., in all kinds of spiritual states of consciousness, in the higher non-dual states. Again, these visions and transformations are seen to be different in different individuals. These changes are observed in some people after only superficial experiences, while very little of these is observed in others, even when they have profound experiences. So even in the state of our body, bodily changes. So naturally, when we are happy, our body reacts in a way. You can see people full of energy, full of enthusiasm. Their voice, their speech is full of hope and expectation. Whereas when we are sad, so our speech itself indicates that we are not happy. So we are sagging down in everything. We are depressed in everything. So there is tremendous change in our voice, in our physical features also, according to our mental states. So in the spiritual state also, when we are in different moods, the body also changes, the voice also changes, our speech also changes, and thoughts also change. In illustrating this, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, if a couple of elephants get into the water of a small pool, the water is thrown into violent agitation and it overflows. But the water in a vast lake remains as still as ever, even when scores of elephants get into it. So this is how people can withstand the impact of the spiritual states. With a small spiritual vision, people will dance about. So they just cry, they shout, they start singing and dancing. And some people might be having deeper experiences than that, but they don't move at all. Sedately they are sitting. They are like a big lake into which scores of elephants are there, but not much ripples are found. It is a huge lake. Whereas in a small lake, if 2 elephants get it, that lake overflows. Water is thrown here and there into violent agitation. So there is difference in the sadhakas also. Small-minded sadhakas will have tremendous reactions, whereas the huge avatar incarnations and the people like incarnations, Ishwar Kotis, they experience deep samadhis, but you don't see any reaction at all from outside. They are like the huge lakes. So nor is it a fact that mere bodily changes, visions, etc., are inevitable signs of the depth of ecstasy. Again, anything external cannot be expressing that which is in the deepermost mind, the spiritual states. Therefore, any amount of ecstasy outside cannot reveal what exactly is happening to the mind of that particular aspirant. So some people may be expressing great joy or sorrow in spiritual moods, but that is not necessary that everyone should have. Some other people may be having higher states of joy and sorrow, but they will not express anything at all. They withstand all that. They are sedately assimilating the whole shocks. So that is why they say you must be very strong to withstand the impact of spiritual moods. How to ascertain higher and lower ecstasies? If, however, the depth of spiritual experiences has to be measured, it must be inferred, as said before, from one's steadfastness, renunciation, strength of character, the attenuation of desires for enjoyment, etc. It is by means of this touchstone alone and by no other means that the amount of dross in ecstasy can be assessed. One thing, therefore, is very clear, namely the complete picture of the fully developed stage of one or other of the moods of Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhura can be seen in those persons alone who have realized their nature to be pure, awakened and free by giving up all kinds of desires, and not in those who are entangled in the desires for lust and good. We can be very sure about these two facts. Those people who have real spiritual experiences, they will be very free from any attraction of the worldly things. They will be free from the lust and lucre. They don't want money, they don't want the sense enjoyments. They will be away from that. Whereas people who are not really spiritual, they will be attached in some way or other, maybe grossly or maybe in a subtle way, to the sense enjoyments, to other enjoyments of the flesh. So by seeing their attachment to the world or detachment to the world, that means to the depth of renunciation they have or the attachment they have, we can clearly see who is spiritual and who is not spiritual. If somebody says, you come, I will give you spiritual instruction, you pay 1,000 rupees fees for that work. Know for certain there is no spirituality in what he or she is going to tell. Simply say no, because there is no spirituality when you for 1,000 rupees you charge to give spiritual knowledge, whereas the greatest rishis have given the highest knowledge without accepting anything. Many times they themselves taking them as disciples and feeding them and bringing them up as their own children. That means spending their money on them. They have imparted this spiritual knowledge. And you say you are going to teach us with 1,000 rupees fees. Get out. So this should be our judgment. Renunciation is the first mark of spirituality. Where it is absent, there cannot be any spirituality. How can such a one feel this sometimes towards God, experienced by minds free from the slightest tinge of desire? God or God knowledge comes to those only who are absolutely desireless. If somebody is desirous of taking money or making money, so know for certain he has no real spirituality. So thus the author stresses again and again from the incidents that we have already heard that in this world of charlatans are not only known for this age, in all ages they have been there, in all countries they have been there. Even in Bible we get the picture of charlatans. One disciple complains to Jesus, "Oh Lord, that so and so is teaching something which is not at all real teaching of you, but he poses like your disciple and is teaching all nonsense. What can be done about it?" Then Jesus tells him, Don't worry, allow him to go on preaching until a proper time when it comes, people will come to know what real spiritual persons are and what the hoax are. When they come to know they are as hoax, they will throw them away. Just like when the peasant goes to the field, so he allows the weeds also to grow along with the plants. Because when he manures the plants, the weeds also take the manure. They also grow as quickly as the plants. But he will not touch the weeds until the harvest time comes. When the harvest time comes, he just collects all the harvest and the grains, and then he sets fire to the weeds. This is the example of Jesus Christ. There were also charlatans at that time. Today also we have. For every one real spiritual man, there will be at least 10 charlatans, because it is a way of making money. Swami Vivekananda, his own one of the hearers, posed as a disciple of him and tried to make money. They complained to Swami Vivekananda, "Sir, so he is taking your name and he is making money." Swami Vivekananda took pity on that man. Poor fellow, he needs some money. What can he do? That is the greatness of Swami Vivekananda. So we will stop here today and we will continue this topic of hearing further things about this topic in our next class. Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukampadhrita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama. O Ram Krishna, the taintless one, the eternal one, the one with infinite forms, the one who takes forms for the sake of devotees, the incarnate supreme soul, and the adorable Lord of all, we salute thee, bowing our heads before you.